Welcome to Truthcast TV. Thank you for joining me. Well, I'm going to give y'all another little example of how karma sometimes doesn't always hit you all at once or hit you within a few hours, a few days, a few months. Sometimes it takes 10 years plus. Sometimes it takes 20 years, 30 years. Well, this piece of shit right here, Jeffrey Epstein, he's a good example of that. Karma has finally come back around to make a full circle, to rear its ugly head and bite him right on his pedophile ass. This piece of shit. Billionaire, pedophile piece of shit. And who does he have ties with? Who has took over 26 different flights and actually put his name down, his real name down, on 5 of them flights to his private island where he molests children. And his buddies molest children and rape children and do their sick little satanic rituals. That would be these two. But karma has come back around to pay this piece of shit a visit, and hopefully come back to bite this piece of shit on the ass and pay him a visit, and a lot of other higher ups, as I would like to call it. This guy right here is going to squeal on him, and a shitload of more politicians and big banker globalists and hedge fund managers and all them fucking sick, rich, satanic worshiping pedophile bastards. But anyway, I digress. Let's see what they're saying down here. Jeffrey Epstein, the wealthiest financier accused of sexually abusing girls for more than a decade, has been linked in the past to celebrities from prominent businessmen, politicians, and at one point Prince Andrew of Britain. Imagine that, huh? Pedophilia runs deep and all over the world. But it's Mr. Epstein's ties to 2 United States presidents, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, that have drawn the most attention in recent days. In 2002, Mr. Trump called Mr. Epstein a terrific guy in an interview with New York Magazine, but on Tuesday, Mr. Trump told reporters he was not a fan of Mr. Epstein, and the two had a falling out and not spoken for some 15 years. Okay, now, let me just stop this real quick and take offense to Donald Trump right here and just say that he denounced this guy about 15, 16 years ago when he assaulted an underage girl at his Mar-a-Lago club, or some club in Florida. After that, President Trump kicked him out of his resort, and then when he was charged in 2007 or 8, Trump was the only big businessman, billionaire, big dog, higher up, to agree to testify against this man, or agree to give a deposition or something about this man. No other billionaires, no other, no other big dogs, no other higher ups, wanted to do that. But Trump, he offered to do that. But anyway, I digress. And Mr. Clinton has denied having a close relationship with Mr. Epstein, of course, but his name is on the registry to his private jet that he owned, flying to his island over 5 different times with his own name that he used. Instead of a fake name, this dumbass Bill Clinton used his real name, for God's sakes. Has denied having any close relationship with Mr. Epstein. On Monday, Mr. Clinton's office said in a statement that Mr. Clinton knows nothing about the terrible crimes that Mr. Epstein has been accused of, and that Mr. Clinton has not spoken to Mr. Epstein in more than a decade, since the last time he molested some little children on his island. The former president has not been linked by prosecutors or officials to any current or previous accusations against Mr. Epstein. Here's what we know about Mr. Clinton's ties to Mr. Epstein. How did Mr. Epstein and Mr. Clinton know each other? Well, during his career in finance, both at Bear Stearns and when he struck out on his own, Mr. Epstein had a reputation for being intensively private. But in 2002, the former president took a trip on Mr. Epstein's private jet, which brought a flurry of media attention. At the time, Mr. Clinton had been out of the White House for 2 years and had started the nonprofit group, the Clinton Foundation. Through his work with the foundation, Mr. Clinton connected with Mr. Epstein, and that's how they molested kids from all over the world. Kidnapped them and fucking molested them and used them as their sex slaves. But I digress. That's another story for another day. The ride on a private jet was part of a visit to Africa that Mr. Clinton made in order to discuss economic development on the continent and the ongoing fight against HIV and AIDS. Yeah, right. If you believe that, you'll believe any fucking thing. Jeffrey is both a highly successful financier and committed philanthropist with a keen sense of global markets and an in-depth knowledge of 21st century science. Mr. Clinton, through a spokesman, told New York Magazine in 2002, I especially appreciated his insights and generosity during the recent trip to Africa to work on decriminalization, empowering the poor, citizen service, and combating HIV/AIDS. Mr. Epstein did not speak with New York Magazine, but friends who were interviewed said that Mr. Epstein viewed his relationship with Mr. Clinton as an extension of his general networking philosophy. I invest in people, be it politics or science, or be it a pedophile, he told his friends according to a magazine. It's what I do. Raping kids is what he does. Molesting children is what he does, and these sick bastards do. In his statement on Monday, Mr. Clinton's spokesman, Angel Urena, I reckon, said that Mr. Clinton took 4 trips on Mr. Epstein's, more like 5. Anyway, Mr. Epstein's plane between 2002 and 2003, 1 each to Europe, Asia, and 2 to Africa. Wonder what he was doing in Asia. Wonder if he went to Thailand or Bangkok, where, it's well known for Americans to go to fuck little children. Excuse my language. This shit's got me heated. Anyway, Lord have mercy. The trips all included stops in connection with the work of Clinton Foundation. Mr. Urena, I reckon, said, adding that Mr. Clinton's staff supporters of the foundation and Mr. Clinton's Secret Service detail traveled with him on every leg of every trip. Yeah, okay. I'm sure, just like, I guess they was with him every second and every minute in the White House, too, right? I guess that's how he was able to get a blowjob and, do all the shit he did in the White House, huh? Anyway. Flight records published by Gawker in 2015 suggest that Mr. Clinton took at least a dozen separate flights on Mr. Epstein's plane a year later. Fox News reported that the flight records showed President Clinton had flown at least 26 times, y'all. 26 times on Mr. Epstein's plane. And who knows how many, at least 5 of them were to his island. Who knows how many really were, because he used a fake name for the rest of them. It was unclear how many individual flights were involved in each trip that Mr. Urena mentioned, and whether, that may account for the discrepancy between the number he cited and what the flight logs show. Mr. Clinton's office did not immediately respond for requests for comment. The flight logs posted online by Gawker also recorded Mr. Clinton as being present on a domestic flight from Miami to Westchester County Airport in West Harrison, New York, which is near Mr. Clinton's home in suburbia Chappaqua. I don't know. Did Mr. Clinton visit Mr. Epstein's homes? Yes, he probably did, but I'm going to cut this video short and just say, well, let me read the rest of this. Mr. Clinton visited Mr. Epstein's New York apartment once around 2002, according to Mr. Urena's statement. The former president was accompanied by a staff member and his security detail. Yeah, right. Whatever. Anyway, I digress. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments below. And, if you haven't already, please go to my channel, subscribe. I need as many supporters as I can get. And, anyway, as I was saying, if you do wrong, wrong will follow. Karma will always make a full circle. Whether it's 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 days, 10 years, she'll come back around. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great Thursday. And I'm out. And remember, stay woke. And until next time.